And then not only do they have values, but who follows the values? Because sometimes it's just the workers that follow the values, but the leaders don't. But if we're talking day to day, communication is a huge value. How do we communicate? Do we believe if there's a problem, we need to go to HR and talk to HR? Or do we believe in direct communication?
The world is embracing the African aesthetic part of design, right? I think I've seen Google have I don't know if it's a design system or what. It's a very beautiful page about colors and what they represent in the African culture and African shape patterns. I don't know if I can get that again.
Coming to work at US companies, and they're like, hey, y'all, you need to understand our food. You need to understand my country. And so, that's how I learned about Kenya. I met a Kenyan person, and they were like, Isaac, you need to know the difference between Kenya and Nigeria. We have to focus on, adding value, right? So somebody that was going to just try to do a one-off Instagram or even an Instagram set, they probably weren't going to pay for a designer in the first place. So we really didn't lose it.
Hello and welcome back to Kenyan Design Conversations. I am your host, Chandarata, and today we have with me the amazing, incredible, fantastic. Should I continue? Isaac Hayes. He's a very. I don't want to underplay him. So one thing I do for my guests, I give you bragging rights. So don't just tell me you're Mr. Hayes. I need the full CV.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Isaac Hayes, designer by trade, but now entrepreneur, co-founder or founder of Nafasi Connection here in Nairobi. My background in design started way back when, 20 years in the industry, and it quickly moved into web design and UX design, and that's where I spent the majority of my career. Towards the end, more in design leadership and some project management or product management. Um, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Wow, it's wow. So it's such an that's such a big I think that's such a big biography. Is that a skill you've learned in such a short time?
Uh, to make, I don't know about that. I think there's so many things I do that I just forget, and so that's why, like, I'll tell you, whenever you ask me a question, I don't know what's going to come out.
Well, interesting. Okay. So you've mentioned working with Facebook, you've mentioned working with Microsoft and other corporations, you've mentioned being CEOs, founders, helping people come up with their own companies, right?
Yes.
Advising. That's like you've it's been 20 years in the design field and more in the leadership field. So how do you just go from being this whole big person to okay, now let's do this startup called Nafasi?
Hmm. Yeah, that is a good question. Some may call that amazing, some may call that crazy. For me, it's, I suppose, an evolution towards being in alignment with my mission and goals and value. Uh, when you as a designer work with all these companies, you get excited about this idea and that idea. And then I think at some point I decided, you know what, I kind of want to build my own idea, especially when you work at, I'll say a large company, but any company where you see, wow, my designs are actually adding to the value, and you realize my pay, my payback isn't even a percentage of what they're charging out. It makes you kind of think about, what is the value I'm receiving for what I'm doing. So there's obviously the financial aspect, but really the bigger aspect is I knew from working at the larger corporations, like which teams and projects made me feel fulfilled and which did not. And for the most part, I'd say I did a lot of things that I was good at, that helped businesses, but that weren't necessarily fulfilling to my life goals. When I'm 75 and looking over my career, will I say I'm really proud I did that, or will I just say that was my career and I was good at it? And I want to be able to look back and say I'm really proud of it. So I was like, let me figure out a way to really help the businesses that I'm interested in. I'm very interested in things that help connect people. So social connections, which is why I went to Facebook/Meta. I really do believe in the mission of connecting people. I think there are new ways I'd rather do that, but I do think the mission is really great. So Nafasi Connection, connecting people. What we're doing is really helping startups to launch, to scale, to have resources, to be able to connect with other startups so that they can have new ideas, new ventures, and and then I think in the future to just be a big resource to specific Web3 different verticals that we're interested in.
Amazing. But I think I heard you say that you're helping founders connect with each other, like find purpose. I initially thought Nafasi was all about giving space, office space.
Yes, I mean, so if we think about Amazon.com, where did it start with as a bookstore? I'm really trying to connect people to that resource, but I think overall their goal was really to provide for its customers' needs and so eventually it went from books and to other products without going into Amazon. So for Nafasi, our goal is to provide space for these startups. But as they come in, they find that they're really looking for venture capital. They're really looking for partnerships. They're looking for employees. They're looking for services. So uh, part of what we want to do as an ecosystem is really to be able to help them out whether that is something we do or we're just the middle person for connecting them. That is important, and once again, that's aligned with my long term goals of helping out startups individually and investing and time and eventually money in them.
Okay, I see what you mean. And so what inspired that shift? Other than just like what there's you thinking, okay, we're supposed to do this, and then there's you now acting. What gave you that push to start now doing it? Like it's now
Yes.
time to.
Yeah. So the last time that I was on a design podcast, it was 2019, and I had just left Meta, and I was like, I'm moving to China, and I'm gonna, figure out what I want to do with my career, and I know I want to start a startup. So I went to Shenzhen, China. I was loving it. Then COVID hit, and I have two kids. I had a relationship, and so I needed to really make sure I could do what I needed to support that to support my family. So, though I had left to really work on this, I needed to prioritize other things. So that kind of pushed this to the backlog. So once we kind of got out of COVID, or we got to this new acceptance of COVID, um, the time came to move forward. And so uh, I was in Singapore. Singapore had a large set of layoffs for tech teams there. And so I kind of at that time was already plotting when I was going to leave to work on my own company. I had already created a pitch deck. I had started to talk to investors and advisors. And then that happened. I got laid off and I was happy. I was like,
Oh,
okay,
oh.
this this made the decision for me. Because sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, should I? But, if I do this, I'm going to lose out on that. And is it the right time? And then you ask yourself so many questions, or I asked myself so many questions. I just talked myself out of it. So that made it clear. For me, I was like, okay, life has said, I said, I'm moving to Singapore to get my family through COVID. And life said,
Mm-hmm.
COVID's over, Isaac. We're going to make you hold true to your promise. And so I had my pitch deck ready. And fast forward, I spent some time in an entrepreneurship program, found a co founder for a relationship app I wanted to build, really set forth on building that out, built a team here in Nairobi, found that we really could use office space, and that I really didn't like the office spaces that we did look at in terms
Oh
of
yeah.
exactly. Having an environment for startups. I wanted something where startups could meet with other founders, and it really just felt like the parts of the Silicon Valley that I like, the early days.
Interesting. So, what would you say is the major difference between the corporate life and the laid back startup life?
um, I mean, it's always going to depend on the corporate company or whatever. Because once you're, any big company, the tech team versus the marketing team and the sales team is completely different. The tech team might roll in at 11, whereas the marketing team and sales team is, showing up at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, the difference, I think, from when you're in a large company, you have that security, unless there's layoffs, which is kind of the industry right now. But prior
Yeah.
to these periods of time, you're like, I know I have my health insurance in the U.S. I got my health insurance, my paycheck. I know that every 6 months I need to let them know what I'm doing well so that I can get my promotion. I know that if I align with this director, this can happen. It's very by the book. It's very much, oh, this role does this. Um, it's a it's not a choose your own adventure book, right? It is a it is already written, and you just kind of pick which page you want to join on, and you do the right process. You talk to the right people. You smile. You go to the happy hour, and you do your thing, and you progress.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's not the exact same for everybody, but overall, it feels like a story that you can just understand what's going to happen. It feels certain and safe. Startup life, it is exciting. So for some people, it's scary. For people, I think designers and engineers. So we are creators, and so what does that mean? I think that means that we love, I'm not gonna say as a whole, but many of us really like to be in startups because a lot of times you're setting the culture for that company. You're very close
Mm-hmm.
to founders, like day in day out. You see them and you get to talk to them. Versus, oh
Mm-hmm.
wow, Mark Zuckerberg's going to be in the office this week. I might get to see him walking by. Like that is not the same as there's my founder. I want to ask them a question. Completely different. And also, I think in terms of, well, I could go into the confidence and then just the feeling of importance when you're able to just say hello. I have an idea to the founder because they're right there, versus you need to go through a committee or you can never actually talk to the CEO because there are 10 levels of management between you and them. Yes. And, some people really like the bureaucracy. Their role is specifically created for creating bureaucracy. And some people
Wow.
just want to build stuff and change the future. And I think that is the dream and the promise of a startup. Obviously, not all startups are ran well and able to do that. But those that are
Mm-hmm.
run well and have the vision and the values and great leadership on the part of both the actual management team as well as on each individual there, they're really great to be at.
So, let's talk about how you just went from design to entrepreneurship.
I mean, I won't say just like that, but I do think if we like break down the roles of a designer,
Mm-hmm.
we're entrepreneurs the whole way. So what happens? So someone has a brief. I doubt it, but maybe the PM wrote a brief and said, "Hey, here's the project. Here's what we're gonna do. Here's the goals." But most of the time, in my experience, it wasn't the case. It was someone saying, "Oh crap, we didn't design this thing. Can you figure it out?" And so, what did we as the designer have to do? We had to go interview the CEO or the business leader. Maybe had to go talk to the sales team. We had to go talk to customers. We had to go look at what are our competitors doing. This is all the same things that a CEO, a business leader should be doing
Does.
because you need to talk to everybody. So we are trained as part of our career every day. The only thing is the way that we frame it is we're helping everybody versus the CEO and leaders like, okay, I need to lead this thing. So with a little bit of mindset adjustment, I think this is easy for anybody that wants to, I guess, take charge and build something.
We've had this conversation before, as we've even had it yesterday about you trying to make designers realize that they can actually be entrepreneurs, right? So, what do you think we should do? What do you think will bring that mind shift or mindset?
Yeah. So like I said, I think the skills are really there. We focus a lot on craft, which I think is obviously very important. And I think as there's a point where you're just like, yeah, my craft is, at 80, 90%. Maybe it's never perfect, but you know what, there's other things that I really want to master in my career. And so, whether so then you get to, let me master understanding uh, about this product space, and then presentations. You know what, I realized I really want, I found this issue, and the team, they don't think it's important because it's coming from design. So what do you naturally do? Okay, I need to figure out how to influence people. I need to learn how to create a better presentation deck. I need to learn how to talk about it. I need to learn who I need to talk to before the meeting so that they can agree
Mm-hmm.
with me. So in the meeting, they help me to get buy-in. So you start to shift from just the creation of the designs and really look more into, yes, the politics of it, the business aspect of it, the fact that you're a salesperson, you are a designer, but every day you're selling your designs to the developer, to the PM, to the customers. You are the core of the sales, because you're basically understanding the customer so well and creating the voice and tone for it. You are ideally the CEO. Like many startups, the CEO is talking directly to the designer in this day and age, especially successful ones. And so, yeah, I think for designers that are interested in doing that, it's kind of just like, okay, as I start to learn different skills to be better at this, I start to see, wow, there's some things I think I know better than the person that is my CEO, or better than my project manager. And I'm not trying to cause conflict. I think anybody that's doing that kind of research to understand the whole, what we call it, the flywheel, so the whole life cycle of the business that allows it to grow and grow, is going to be set up so that they can succeed in starting a business, managing a business. And I think designers have that. We already know that developers have done that in the past, because they know about building out the product.
You basically mean our decisions mostly shape the companies you're at. So I believe, as much as it is hard to swallow, it's a truth pill. We are responsible for a lot that goes on in the company, and that might include revenue or income.
Yes. A lot of times we're able to point out, hey, this team, like one time I was working on a project and they wanted me to redesign a page that wasn't working. And really the design was not that bad. I made it look nicer, but really the issue was the team responsible for writing the content for this page. Their goals weren't aligned with the team responsible for managing the page. So as a designer, I really it was a minor amount of work I needed to do. But what I did as a leader was I basically called a meeting between the team I was on and the partner team, and we assessed the
Mm-hmm.
different goals, and helped that team to change their goals so that they were in alignment with our goals.
Okay.
Basically, you can imagine a content team is, their goals are write more, write more, write more. A product
Mm-hmm.
team, your goal is to make sure there's high customer satisfaction, high retention. Those things do not always align. And so by readjusting our goals, we were able to make sure that now that for those pages, the content had to have a high standard, and they were actually gold on the quality of the content, not just the amount of the content. So the work that I did there was not actually design work. The work was bringing those people together, having that conversation, and that actually helped us to make that page perform better. And there was a nice, uh, that helped the business out a lot. And there was really, like I said, minimal design work on that.
Interesting. So how would you say a designer could do that? I'm thinking this is a company where, of course, in every company, whether it's a startup or, there's still that form of element of hierarchy despite everything.
Yeah,
So how would this designer who's just here convince these other people, okay, so this is what's going on, we need to look at it this way?
yeah. So I think it's gonna circle back to I guess, emotional intelligence, which I think most of us are pretty good at as designers. So if I just started a company last week, I can say, hey, Chantel, thank you for hiring me. I think the website is horrible and it needs an overhaul. And so I've started to design that and I'm ready. And you, as my boss, would be like, wow, Isaac, thank you for your excitement, but you really know nothing about the app you just started. Even as a great designer, do you know our customers? Do you know the problems? Do you know why this happened? Why don't you
Mm-hmm.
wait a few months and see if you still believe that? But for now, and what they'll do, for now, why don't you do a walkthrough and an assessment? So usually, what you have that new really excited person do is walk through the app and kind of let the team know I did a walkthrough and here's my feedback. I think the UI requires this. You write that all out, and I guarantee you, when you do that, do an assessment 3 months later, 6 months later, 9 months later. And even though I know the app should and will be changing, you're going to have a better level of understanding of the how things work. And so I think a lot of times the initial recommendations will be more just on the UI part, but as you're there more, you'll kind of understand, oh, this process doesn't make sense. Oh, why are we using you know why are we using this partner? Right now we're using PayPal, but most of our audience is here. Like, you're going to have a deeper level of understanding. So
Mm-hmm.
rewind back to your question. As a new designer, you're going to understand, where am I in the hierarchy of this company? Where am I in my tenure at this company, in my tenure at this career? So if I just graduated, now to be fair, someone who just graduated versus someone who has been 10 years, you both might have really great insights on the way forward. But I think there is an understanding of, what is my relationship with the people that make change here. If I just
Mm-hmm.
started, it's going to be a lot harder for me to make change at that new company, unless that everybody else is also new. But what I can do is really work on making relationships. So who are the people that are, key to the work I want to do? So, the dev manager, the PM, my specific manager. It really, it's going to depend on the size of your company. I talk to them and I said, you do that informal interview or informational interview when you first start, and you say, hey, like, I'm new here and I want to know about your role. I want to know how our roles connect. I want to know what you see as success for my role. So I think hopefully we're all doing that when we join a new team or a new company. And then there's the follow up. We don't just meet with them that one time. We try to have our monthly one on one with them, or our quarterly one on one, or depending on the closeness of that relationship, so that we have this continuous loop with them. And so if you're always talking to your PM, then you kind of know their goals. They're always trying to make sure everything's on time. They're trying to make sure the developers never have downtime where they're not working on stuff. So they're like, we got to keep them fed. We got to keep the developers fed. Come on. You definitely hear that a lot in the U.S. So then, okay, when I'm trying to convince my PM of something, he's always trying to make sure the developers are fed. I have this new idea that requires me to spend 1 month researching something. So I'll say, hey, PM, I think it's really important that we research this thing. I know it's going to take a month. And I think at the end of this next release, there's going to be time when they need to spend about 3 weeks doing bug checks. And that is when I really want to work on investigating that, and I'd really love your help. So there's a couple things you did there. You communicated ahead of time. You showed the PM that you understand their goals and values, and that you're looking for alignment, and you really care about that as well as the business. And then you suggested something moving forward that shows leadership. So
Wow.
that can go to you know that can go to your design manager, your CEO. You have to understand their goals, and then, once again, what did I say? I said we're all in sales, right? So we're looking for
Mm-hmm.
a win-win situation. We're never looking to scam the other person. That's a failure in sales. You might get some money, but you won't get a long-term customer. So the win-win
Mm-hmm.
situation is, what does this person need? What do I need? How can we make it so that we're both successful in that?
Okay. So what I'm hearing mostly is communication. and just taking a step forward. I don't know. There's more to leadership than there is to any other. From what, like, just taking the initiative to do it first before you approach them, and then I'll tell them that, and then by the time you understand their goals, wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously long term, and I think you're gonna also know like how you learn, how you work. I'm very much I think you can put me into any country, any situation, and I will learn and adapt. But I am observe first and then act. If you're more of an
Mm-hmm.
act first person, then some of the stuff I said won't completely resonate. You might just be like, you know what, I'm gonna go in. What do they say? Guns blazing, and see what happens. Um, and so I don't really have good advice in that situation, except for if that's the case, then you have to be super aware of, so I've already said, here's what I think we should do moving forward. And I then followed up with the right people. So I think there's still going to be, depending on your style, there's still going to be a making sure the self awareness of how is this connecting with people. In some companies, they're going to love that, and in some companies, they're going to hate that. So hopefully, you pick the company that loves somebody that's just like, let's go, 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 go. And if you're more chill, hopefully, you pick the company that's more thoughtful. And I don't mean that in an offensive way, but that thinks in the way you do and deliberates in the way that you do.
Hmm. So you've brought out something interesting, something about values and personality that align with the company you're working for.
Yes.
What do you want to talk about that?
Um, that is something I think I've just been realizing over the last few years in relationship to values. Because I think before I would just think, oh, like XYZ company, they have these slogans. That sounds good. But it isn't until I think the last few years that I'm like, oh, does the company actually have values? That's actually really important. And then not only do they have values, but who follows the values? Because sometimes it's just the workers that follow the values, but the leaders don't. And how do you find that out? I'm not going to say that's easy. Sometimes it takes some time on the job to figure that out. But basically, yeah, knowing if they do have their values written up, if you are able to talk to somebody at that company and just say, I really care about work life balance. I personally, I really like companies that like drinking. uh, so if there are a couple of times I've interviewed at a company and they're like, yeah, we have a policy of no alcohol at the office. We even on events we don't have alcohol. Now I'm not going to say I chose my career for alcohol, but what I have found is I have worked at companies like that, and I found that there was not an alignment. Like we just worked more than 40 hours, 50, 60 hours, and we're having a party, and I would like to have a beer. I would like to have a glass of wine. Is that a core value? No. But to me, sometimes that little thing, it actually symbolizes some other stuff. So for me, that symbolizes, do they value kind of having fun? Do they are they more relaxed and casual, or is it very uptight and formal? So that is one value. Um, but if we're talking day to day, communication is a huge value. How do we communicate? Do we believe if there's a problem, we need to go to HR and talk to HR, or do we believe in direct communication? Does the company actually have that in their guidelines? And once again, if we can go to Glassdoor or some other way to really evaluate if they really live up to those values. I think one thing I like about startups is it's kind of clear if the values are working or not. Like,
Oh
are the
yeah.
people happy? If they say their mission is to build a co-working space, but you go there and there's no co-working space, then are they aligned with their mission? So it does require some investigation, and I know sometimes as I've been applying to jobs, I just, especially early on, I just needed a job. So, I would learn the values as I was there. Um, but when I was able to then be more selective, those values were very important. And I had specific companies that I said, oh, this company, I like their values a lot. I like the types of work they put out. I like the types of leaders that I see from there. And especially like when you go on Medium or anywhere where you see designers or workers share their work, you kind of get an idea. Okay, a lot of people from this company share this kind of work. They write these kind of articles. If I'm seeing that happen a lot, there's probably a shared value there that I like.
Okay. I see your point. I see the relation. Of course, yeah. The alcohol thing might not be your value, but it might come off as okay. So who are the kind of people I might meet around?
Yes.
Yeah, I do get your point. So anyway,
Yeah.
every man picks their poison. I wanna
Yeah.
ask. There's been I've noticed some people. I don't know. The world is embracing the African aesthetic part of design, right? I think I've seen Google have like I don't know if it's a design system or what. It's a very beautiful page about colors and what they represent in the African culture and African shape patterns. I don't know if I can get that again, but things like that. So, what do you think? And are we doing enough? Are we undermining it, us as Africans, from your point of view?
Um, yeah. Yeah. So I'm coming in. I mean, obviously, I'm African, but removed by what happened in history. Uh, but what I would say is, you know, wow, it's so complex. So, but I want to frame it well. I'm really excited. I do think people are starting to notice something that's obviously already been here. You know how trends go. So like I do think there's trends of like, oh, we like this area and that sort of thing. And so I think there's a lot of things happening. I think like even when I was at Meta, there we actually had leadership, a lot of leadership that was coming from the continent, and that was very well performing, really great at public speaking. And so I think the fact that there are many African people coming to the U.S. I'm obviously coming from a U.S. bias, coming to
Mm-hmm.
work at U.S. companies, and they're like, "Hey, y'all, you need to understand our food. You need to understand my country." And so, I mean, that's how I learned about Kenya. I met a Kenyan person, and they were like, "Isaac, you need to know the difference between Kenya and Nigeria, because this is ridiculous." And I learned. I was like, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I learned so much, and I really fell in love with the foods that my buddy introduced me to. His parents were super cool and treated me like family. And so it made it very easy for me to come and work here. So to return to the question, though, I think by nature of, I think it's experience. Whenever people experience someone like you, they understand you. Obviously, unless you cuss them off or punch them, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they work with you and they like you. They say, "Oh, I like Chantel," and then Chantel says, I'm from Kenya. "Oh, Kenya, where's that?" "Oh, Kenya's here. It's a very vibrant culture, and here's some of the things." "Oh, wow, that looks really neat." I think right now, there's the music scene with Afro beats has definitely pushed that into the forefront in people's reality. Obviously, there's also food is doing that. So those are, I think, the safe ways that seep in for culture and food and music. But then having different employees there, especially if we're talking in the startup scene, the tech scene, we have a lot of people from India there, and a lot of people from China and specific regions that are working in different companies and being CEOs. And we're also now starting to see a lot of African from the continent, employees move up in ranks as well, and as well as getting funded really nicely by some venture capitalist firms. So that helps a lot. Once again, making people familiar. In terms of the design aesthetic, I think that then just becomes like why would I why would I have very well seasoned food and then go somewhere that wasn't well seasoned and not bring that with me. So if you think about design, if you think about the traditional UI of that's built off of minimalism, there are periods of time where you can look at every app in the app store and they have the same base color, the same color for the buttons. And so to be able to bring something of flavor from Africa, I think is beautiful. It's nice to see colors returning to UI. Everything was just
Mm-hmm.
very flat and white for a long time, as well as just lacking in I think, diversity in styles where it was very hard to tell which app is this. This, looks like that, looks like that. So
Mm-hmm.
bringing that back. But I do think there needs to be some ownership of that, to make sure it doesn't just get lumped in with everything else. I would love to see, you know, different startups really talking about what makes African design. And I think that needs to be architecture, interior design, fashion, but definitely for UX designers to be posting articles about it, to be putting their portfolio, to really be saying why this is
Mm-hmm.
important and what is the aesthetic of African design. I think one thing that works really well in our community is when you communicate about it, write about it, talk about it being important, and people go, "Oh, there's an article, must be important." If we just don't say anything, then it disappears.
Yeah, you're right. So we create awareness by actually creating content around it or
I think.
apps or quick brain juggling. So if you're to create an application that solves that problem, what would it be?
Hmm. So the problem, we have to refine the problem statement. So the problem statement is there's a lot of great talent in Africa, and the rest of the world does not know or appreciate the value and beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
How can we help the world to see that? So, is that a good problem statement we can go with?
Yes.
So then I'm thinking, I mean, the first thing that pops in my head is a marketplace. Yeah, man, a beautiful marketplace of color. So it's like I can even see the marketing campaign. Sometimes I start with the marketing campaign. Are you tired of boring design? Are you tired of, like of everything looking like the same shade of khaki? We have the best stuff for you. And I mean khaki as in pants and clothes, just so no one thinks I'm going somewhere else with that. We have we have the best designs for you. Something new, something special, something straight out of Africa, and and actually straight out of wonderful countries. The beauty of Kenya, the beauty of Tanzania, and list them all out so people remember that Africa is a continent, not a country. And to show those colors, I would just, I don't know if so we're going back to the marketplace. It's getting me excited, and I'm going to get distracted. But I think for that marketplace, so then you do a little bit of research, like in terms of marketplaces, in terms of SEO. What are the types of marketplaces that have the highest utilization? What are people looking for the most? And I'm just gonna guess, and I'm gonna say it's probably like jewelry and fashion and that sort of stuff. So I'm gonna start my marketplace there. Just like I'm starting with a co-working space, just like Amazon started with a bookstore, our marketplace is going to start with jewelry from countries in Africa. And we're going to do a heavy job of marketing it on Instagram and Facebook and whatever else people are using. Obviously, TikTok. And it's going to show the different colors. And then I think one issue we have in the U.S. would be, oh, this is Africans only. Africans can wear that. This is Japanese only. Japanese can wear that. So we and I'm gonna say we as in us as Africans
Mm-hmm.
can say actually this is our beautiful art from Kenya, and we love seeing people from Yugoslavia, people from China, people from Uruguay wearing our Tanzanian earrings. Something like that that I think can give permission to people to wear something that's not from their culture and to know that that's respectful. Not only are you helping the artists, but you're also helping to spread information about Tanzania because now people can say, "Oh, that's some really nice earrings you're wearing. Where they're from? Oh, they're from Tanzania, from this artist named da 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 who does this." So I think there is that permission part because once again, at least in the U.S., there is a lot of issues we have with cultural appropriation, where a company might say, "Oh, we're going to go to Tanzania, steal all these patterns, put it here, not give any kind of credit back to where it came from, and we'll profit."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's that. Okay. So entrepreneurship, especially in two countries, isn't easy. Can you share some of the risks, setbacks you faced, some of those challenges, how you've come out of it?
Mm, um, learn new risks. I'm not gonna say every
Mm-hmm.
day, but definitely pretty frequently you learn new risks. I think the most obvious one is funding. Am I going to be able to pay my employees this month, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, and in a year? Um, are my employees going to be motivated? Are they trained? Do they have what they need in terms of resources? Am I a good leader for them? Um, so let's see what else other risks. Have I picked the right business model, the right business that's going to be successful? And so a lot of those things we put together a business plan for all of the businesses that I have either started or co-founded. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but you still hope we were right. We did a lot of research, but things changed. If you opened up a co-working space before COVID and then you saw everybody started working from home, you couldn't predict that. So luckily we opened it after COVID, and we're not specific. I'm not going to go into that. What I'll say is we have made sure to look into what happens, God forbid, if COVID returned. Have we really made sure that we're not just relying on this one aspect? Do we have a contingency plan? I think every business should have like what happens if the building catches on fire? What happens if X, Y, or Z? Obviously, you don't focus on that. You
Mm-hmm.
focus on the positive, but well, just in
Mm-hmm.
case, let's have a couple of plan Bs in there.
Okay, I see. I do see. So then that means you like have like a lot of patience, a lot of resilience. Like you tolerate also a lot. So just how do you get to a point where you see you even said there's a point where you said all you need to do is just you can land anywhere. All you need to do is just observe and then you're good to go. So yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, it's funny because inside I don't feel very patient, but but I think outside, and I think that is more so the case, and I think that has to do with me maturing and really just understanding how to communicate, how to have better social skills. But I think what's allowed for that is, I mean, number one, haste does not make for a better performance. I do think moving fast in business thoughtfully is important. So I do like to ship things fast. I like to follow up with customers fast. But I think I'm always like, okay, but what is my goal here? So if I'm doing a business proposal, man, I really, if we met today, I want to send you that proposal tomorrow because I want you to sign and I want you to see that I'm
Mm-hmm.
serious. But if
Mm-hmm.
that proposal has a bunch of typos, it's not well branded. If I haven't really thought that through with the business team, and it actually could be a loss of revenue for us, then I shouldn't send that out. So um, I think my patience is realizing that number one, for each of these businesses, it's more than just me. So I really I picked a team for a reason, and so I need to reach out to them and definitely leverage them.
Mm-hmm.
It is really knowing, okay, when I'm in Singapore versus when I'm in Bali versus when I'm in San Francisco versus when I'm in Nairobi, things move at different rates and communication happens differently. And if I want to be successful, I should observe. I definitely do bring my California self in each of those places. I'm wearing a really chill shirt I have today. I wear
Mm-hmm.
casual clothes, but if I have a business meeting, I definitely make sure that I look professional. Um, so I think for me, it's just an amount of awareness and really just making sure I'm really trying to balance. Okay, what are my goals? Um, what are what are my goals? What are the goals of my team? What are the goals of my business? How does that all come together? And usually, it requires some amount of being mindful, being thoughtful, taking some time. And so, I've done a lot of work to, don't reply just yet. Wait until tomorrow. Ooh, man, this thing is really bothering me. But I bet you if I don't reply, these two people that are arguing and waiting for me to solve it, I bet they'll solve it on their own. And goodness gracious, has that worked? So sometimes
I've seen that work.
sometimes just shut up.
I have personal experience with you, but I'll talk about that in the episode.
Yes, and it is hard because I'm a problem solver. I wanna solve the problem, but I just have to shut up and allow people to grow into their own excellence. A little bit of coaching, and I need to let
Sure. Okay. So you've a little bit of coaching. So let's talk about mentorship. How important is mentorship in? Did you have 20 years? Did you have a mentor? For do you change your mentors, or is it one mentor throughout, or do you outgrow a mentor? Tell us this. Tell us the process.
So let's see. I think for the longest time, I didn't have somebody that was actually a titled mentor. But in each part of my career, I'm so curious. So I'm meeting people, I'm talking to people, and so each of those situations, I'm asking questions. I'm really not a small talk person. So how are you? How was your weekend? I try to do that because that's supposed to be friendly, but usually I'm like, so Chantel, can you tell me, like, if you could travel anywhere in the world? So I will ask a question that goes into like, because I've been really thinking, like for instance, I told you I've been working on values lately. So when I've been meeting people, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, have you thought about your values? And oh, you're married. Do you and your husband share the same values? And how do you know? So, like, that's probably not the first question I ask upon meeting them, but I will ask that pretty soon, which gets to the point of my mentors would be just life. As I'm going through life and I'm having something I'm thinking about, I'm curious how,
Mm-hmm.
are other people thinking about this? So I think that natural curiosity part has helped a lot, and then the actual having a mentors, you know what, I actually have just people, I think, because of my curiosity, because of my kindness, that have just taken me in. They're like, oh, look at this stray cat in the world, this designer trying to do what he's trying to do, and they have mentored me. So I do remember my first UX job. I was actually still a graphic designer and web designer,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a contract job at a startup, and the hiring manager, who his name was Wa Thai, uh, Vietnamese man, Vietnamese American man out of Seattle, and he was like, Isaac, I interviewed with him, and he's like, I really like you. We cannot offer you a full time job. We can't offer you a good amount of money, but I'll tell you what I can offer you. 3 months, I'm going to teach you everything that I know about UX design, and I guarantee you're going to get a good job. And I said yes. I mean, he could have been selling me the dream, and I could have been on the street, but he was honest. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, I was able to go to Expedia, Getty Images with such confidence because I really learned from an expert. And so I really value being able to learn from somebody that sees you and cares about you in your career, and is honest and has integrity. He told me, I'm not going to be able to hire you. And guess what? They didn't have a budget. They did not hire me.
Mm.
But he sure did help refer me to the job. I still had to interview. I still had to get my portfolio ready. I still had to do what I need to do. But he sure did refer me. And that was a huge turn in my career. And so I've had several situations like that. I think official mentors, I did not actually, honestly, I didn't have until I became a design manager. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm struggling here. I don't know why I'm running into this wall with this employee. And so then I went to organizations to find an official manager, not manager, mentor. But the other way around, I feel that I've been mentoring people, um, because people would ask me. I think, yeah, I think to ask for help has been something, that requires vulnerability that I didn't have until later.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's an interesting admission and a very honest one at that. It's very hard for us to like kind of get to that point of realization where okay, I'm not the best and I can't do this on my own. I need help. So yeah, I also got to a point where I thought I needed help, but I just didn't know how to get a mentor. Mm, Well, you think thank you for breaking it down. As long as you guys have the same values, it's gonna be easy for you guys to get along. Which got me I was just about to ask about networking. But then you did mention that you will even when you're out, you've gone out and you're interacting with people, you kind of end up asking them about their values. So I think you've covered that as well. Then let's talk about what us designers we fear eradication. We are being eradicated by AI. You know, like AI has come for us. Okay, at least that's what many of us think. And like right now, there's this post I was seeing. Someone was asking, "Do you see the difference of these mock-ups?" Well, three screens, three screen interfaces, very clean, neat design. Of course, there are people who can notice this is AI, but not a lot. So we're getting to that point where UI is not even going to be as important. I don't know. That's how I feel. What do you think?
Um, I definitely, I mean, because I mean, so Canva. Before I'm gonna get to that in a second, but Canva came out and it made it so that anybody could be a designer, right? And so now anybody can do a, Instagram posts, marketing campaigns by using templates, and it's really easy to edit the text. So what did that mean? I mean, what I think that means is now we don't have the now we I'm trying to make sure I'm careful what I say. I was going to say we don't get the crappy jobs. Now what that means is we have to focus on, adding value, right? So somebody
Mm-hmm.
that was going to just try to do a one-off Instagram or even an Instagram set, they probably weren't going to pay for a designer in the first place. So we really didn't
Mm-hmm.
lose it. Now,
Okay.
now for being able to go into one of the AI tools and create a deck is possible. Being able to go in there and create a logo, it's possible. And I think that is definitely something that's scary and exciting. The scary part is, yeah, anybody can do it. But then what that means is anybody can create a really crappy logo quickly and not know how to
Mm-hmm.
refine it so that it can get to be what it needs to be. So that's still at this point there still is a need for us because with the prompts, I go into ChatGPT all the time. But the
Mm-hmm.
first time I ask a question, I get something that's it's okay, and so then I go back and
Mm-hmm.
I curate and curate and tweak until I get what I want, and I'm really happy with the result. But it looks nothing like the result that I see from other people that do it, and you can just see like yeah, you asked for a PRD for a product, for this document for a PM. Somebody that just says, "Hey, can you give me a document for how to make this UI app?" is going to get something very basic. Somebody who's actually a PM, a designer that says, "I'm looking for a document that details X, Y, and Z, and I want to make sure that it can communicate to the developers how they can test it, and it communicates at the top of the document to the CEO. What is the goal of this?" Your prompts are going to be so much richer because you know what you're talking about. Now, the AI learning that as well? Probably so.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a little scary, but at least for now, those of us that are using the AI, it is speeding us up. I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm probably a little more worried for us that are focused on content writing than us that are doing UI, because I don't think the UI is at a point where it can be doing like wireframe or not wireframe, but like iterations that are going to go multi-screen iterations. It can do one
Mm-hmm.
UI and then you ask it another question and now the UI is completely changed. Even if you say, XYZ AI tool now makes
Yeah.
screen, it never looks the same. So currently, that's still good. Will they fix that? Most definitely. So I do think it is important that we are utilizing those tools. We are prompting with them. And, yeah, I think it's possible there's going to be a shift in the career where we're more of prompt engineers and then we can go in and fine tune as needed.
Oh, okay. So, as just about we wrap up, you are having a session sometime next week.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. and why, and what it entails, what you're gonna talk about, where it will be, how much the tickets are, and where you can find the tickets.
I'm gonna have to remember how much the tickets cost, but all the other details I think I can do. So
We'll
we
post posters.
we at Nafasi have, really been trying to, add value to this ecosystem. In order to have successful startups, you're going to need to help entrepreneurs to connect. You're going to need to have developers that are, really at the top of their game, designers that are at the top of the game. So we want to have or we are hosting a series next week, which is going to go over a few things. Day one is going to be how to basically supercharge your design portfolio. And that's really going to be like, well, I'm not going to give all the details, but basically how to get confidence, how to know what to show, how to know how to showcase what you do well, and also picking the right things for your portfolio. Day two is going to be focused on interviewing. So interviewing at tech companies. It's going to be, and these are all going to be interactive. I don't want anything that you can just go on YouTube right now or ChatGPT right now and just ask. These are going to be things where you actually get the confidence because we're walking through them with you. So for day two, once again, it's going to be interviewing at tech companies. We're going to give people insights on, you know, how to you know, how do I look to see that this company has my values? How do I know, I just graduated. Should I even care about values or should I just get a job? We're going to have a part where people could just open ended ask questions. I love it. I love the challenge. Ask me a hard question. Please bring it. As well as the rest of the panel that we'll have. Because we really want to make sure that people are confidently going to these jobs. I hope nobody goes to a job and is like, oh my God, I'm not worthy of working here. I hope they'll give me this job. I hope it's actually a different mindset, and we want to talk about that. And then day three is going to be designing pitch decks. So, as I've talked about, we're all in sales. That's something I learned at Salesforce. A pitch deck is basically a sales deck. So it's not just, hey, you know what? I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't need to know how to make a pitch deck. Anybody trying to sell something within their company, and especially today's companies, a lot of times you're emailing or sending a document. So a pitch deck could be to get funding for your startup. A pitch deck could be to be presenting a new idea for your startup to your team, to your manager, etc. We're going to be focusing on pitch decks that are mostly focused on, you know, for startups, but I think it's applicable to anybody. What are the types of stories that you should put in your pitch deck to really convince people? How can you speed up creation of this? Yeah. So those are the three different nights. It's going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Yep. From I believe 4 to 7 p.m. at Nafasi. The last night, the pitch deck night, we'll also have drinks afterwards. I've already told you my view on that. You do not have to drink, and I do not think everybody has to drink. I think good cultures can not have alcohol, but that'll be there as well. And yeah, we have some posters up that have the price. I honestly I cannot remember, but we have tried to make it affordable for the local community. We really hope people will come out, and our goal really is to be able to provide more of this content for people to hear. Are there other types of events that would be valuable to the community? Please let us know. We'd like to bring them to Nafasi. If you want to present at Nafasi, we'd also love to have you for that.
Yay, amazing. So just okay. Just tell people to like, share, and subscribe and follow, and then now you can conclude. Tell us bye.
Okay, please like, share, and follow me. But definitely, you got to like, share, and follow Kenyan Design Conversations. I am so grateful I finally got to come on the podcast. I really respect this designer right here in front of us. Chantel is an amazing designer. Yeah, I have personally seen you doing great work, great conversations, great design leadership, evolution. Yeah, so definitely like, subscribe, and follow Kenyan Design Conversations. And then on my end, please like, share, and follow me on Instagram at Isaac Hayes. Yeah, I have an X account, but I don't really manage that at all right now. So please don't like, share, or follow me there. Just Instagram.
thank you, thank you for your kind words as well. So what I'll do is I'll be posting the socials, your socials, Nafasi's socials, our socials on the description, so they'll just get them instantly, and the ones you just want them to find. So don't
Yes.
worry.
And I forgot to say to like, share, and follow Nafasi. My bad. See, I'm so excited.
Okay, say it.
Please like, share, and follow Nafasi Connection on Instagram, which is at Nafasi Connection, as well as on LinkedIn, as well as on X, because we really, as Nafasi Connection, want you to be able to connect with us wherever you are.
Wow, that's such a powerful closing statement. Thank you so much, Isaac, for agreeing to come. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot. I don't think this will be the only episode you'll have. Considering I can pull you once in a while, maybe have a session about portfolios. But for now, let's focus on the event that's coming up. I will be there. I will be there. I still am asking for the link to sign up to do a live interview. So I'll be on stage, whoever will be there. Just
Yes,
come and learn a
definitely.
lot. This has been Kenyan Design Conversations, and I have been your host, Chandarata. Bye.